No surprise that the SEC is leading the way for most classes in the top 25. 9 teams from that conference with great recruiting classes, and you work your way down the Big Ten with 1 team. But there should be an asterisk there because Nebraska also at this point with a top 25 class, and don't forget the Huskers joining the Big Ten next season. So Craig, you take a look at this. If you take Nebraska out of the mix, though, it's just 1 top 25 recruiting class for the Big Ten. Does that mean it's a down year in that conference?
Overall, as far as the top, obviously the Big Ten considers itself one of the major players in college football, and rightfully so. Just to have 1 team in a top 25, not including Nebraska, does not seem great. But if you really kind of go below that, though, it's not a bad year for the Big Ten. There's just a log jam of teams if we were to give grades in that B+, B- range. You know, the Illinois, the Northwesterns, the Wisconsins, Michigan State. So yes, on the surface, it's a down year, but it's not a horrible year because there's a lot of teams doing a solid job on the recruiting trail.
Coming into this year on the surface, the addition of Nebraska didn't look like a whole lot with the recent success, but now with Bo Pelini starting to get that offense rolling, the defense is there, and now the recruiting really coming together. Nebraska with the number 14 overall recruiting class at this point. A lot of offensive firepower with Aaron Green coming in, Jamal Turner, who says he will get the chance to play quarterback, and a pretty good dual threat one there with Bubba Starling as well. Who else is out there, though, for the Huskers to make it even better?
Well, they got a few guys out there. I think Todd Pete Jr. is a defensive tackle. Obviously, Nebraska has a lot to sell when it comes to defensive players. Keenan Virgil is a linebacker out of Miami who the Nebraska Cornhuskers are in the hunt for as well. So there's some players out there that Nebraska is looking. I don't know if there's any big major impact moves for the Huskers before signing day, but there are some solid, good 3-star players. Todd Pete Jr. is a 4-star defensive tackle, so Nebraska could definitely accentuate this class before signing day.
No surprise, though, the lead recruiting class in the Big Ten being put together by Jim Tressel. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the number 7 overall recruiting class. Braxton Miller did come into the year the number 2 quarterback prospect in the 150. He drops to the number 4 spot. He is enrolled early. He is all set to go. Who could eventually join him at Columbus to make this class even better as well?
Well, Ohio State leading the way. They've got a few spots, and they've got a few guys in the mix. One of them is one of the top inside linebacker prospects in the country, Curtis Grant out of Virginia. He's scheduled to visit North Carolina this weekend. He's looking at Ohio State, also Virginia and Florida, but I think the Buckeyes have a real strong shot at this kid. He's got great athleticism, and he's a young man who has impressed me as the year went on. I was a little bit suspect him in the beginning of the process, but he's really shown me throughout the year that this kid could be a great linebacker. Now, out of Maryland, Darius Jennings is another young man that the Buckeyes are in the race for. Also, he's looking at Wake Forest and also UVA as well. I don't know if Ohio State has as good of a chance with Jennings as they do with Curtis Grant, but obviously a very talented player who I think, a good athlete, who I think will play corner at the next level being college. I just don't know if Ohio State will score with him. But if I am an Ohio State Buckeye fan, I know I'm in the running for both. I know I got a good chance at Grant. And don't forget about Glenville out of Cleveland, Ohio. Sends a lot of guys to Ohio State. They got 5 guys uncommitted. 4-star guard Andre Walker is another guy who Ohio State could reasonably add before signing day.
But to get this straight, the 2 biggest battles for Ohio State involving the Buckeyes and the Virginia Cavaliers. Interesting recruiting race
getting it done
at this point. Hey, Grant is going to make his decision, scheduled to do that at least National Signing Day right here on ESPNU. Michigan not in the top 25 at this point. What do you think of the class overall right now under Brady Hoke?
You know, it's probably pretty frustrating for Michigan fans. I mean, Michigan's got a rich history. You expect to be one of those teams in the top 25 recruiting class. You got to be patient. Brady Hoke came in a tough situation. He came in late. I wouldn't expect much. They've added a few 3-star players, stole a promising quarterback, Russell Bellamy, away from Purdue. So things are rolling along, but I think as a Michigan fan, you really got to temper your expectations for signing day. Expect a solid class. Expect Brady Hoke to do what he can, but really you got to give him and his new staff a full year before you judge what he can do with Michigan on the recruiting trail.
And yet another system to try to recruit too. For more on what Brady Hoke is trying to do, we welcome back our insiders, Corey Long and Jamie Newberg. Corey, you focus on the job Hoke is doing. Can he make a splash from now until National Signing Day?
There's definitely room to move up for Michigan. One thing Brady Hoke has done is he's been able to get commitments. He's gotten 9 since he took the job a little, a little bit over less than a month ago. So he's making a lot of moves in the right direction. He recently got, the quarterback Russell Bellamy to switch from Purdue to Michigan, and he's been hot for defensive tackle Darian Cooper out of Maryland. Cooper was high on Michigan when Rich Rodriguez was there. He backed off once Rich Rodriguez got fired. He was supposed to make an announcement maybe yesterday, maybe today, but Hoke is trying to convince him to take an official visit to Michigan this weekend.
And if he doesn't go to Michigan, Michigan State is a definite possibility for Cooper. And, they've had a good week. They get Jawan Caesar from South Florida, Coral Park High School, a receiver that really kind of blew up this year, especially in the latter part of the recruiting process. A bunch of schools jumped on him late. He committed to Michigan State this past week. So a great get there for the Spartans, one of the top receivers from the state of Florida. Now, unfortunately, it looks like tomorrow's decision regarding ESPNU 150 running back Savon Higgins won't be Michigan State, as he's narrowed it down to 3 schools: Notre Dame, North Carolina, as well as Rutgers. Spoke to his father last night. This is going to be tough because he really believes he fits in well at all 3 schools and loves the academics at all 3 schools. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to pick the place where if he took football out of the equation, that's where he's going to be. A lot of people think, including myself, it's probably Rutgers.